I'm so excited to share that through Executive Endurance Coaching, I've officially joined Never Second's Coach and Nutritionist program. Never Second is a science driven performance nutrition brand built specifically for endurance athletes. I've personally been using their fueling system for years in my own training, and I love how simple, precise their approach to carbohydrate fueling is for runners, cyclists, triathletes, you name it. And today, if you want to try Never Second for yourself, our listeners can get 15% off by using the code GRIT15 at checkout. GRIT 15 at checkout. Just head to never2.com and start fueling your training with intention. This episode is brought to you by Koya Performance for Life. Koya combines wearable technology with behavioral science to help you unlock more energy and perform at the highest level. Their coaches have worked with Olympians, Super Bowl MVPs, World Series champions, and other elite performers. Their 12-week program focuses on sleep, exercise, nutrition, mindset, and recovery, blending biometric data from wearables like Aura, Whoop, or Garmin with one-on-one coaching from a team that includes a dietitian, sleep coach, movement specialist, and mental performance coach. I'll personally be participating in their March cohort and will be sharing updates with you along the way so you can hear exactly what the experience is like. Grit Files listeners today receive 33% off the program using the code AGRANDOFF. Visit koya.life to learn more. Welcome to the Grit Files. I'm your host, Laura Reynolds. Today's guest is someone who has spent her life building at the intersection of innovation, creativity, and human connection. She was an early employee at Facebook, helped shape the way billions of people can interact online, redefining herself through entrepreneurship, investing, media, and the arts. She's a Tony Award-winning producer, founder of Hug, an advocate for creators and emerging technology, and perhaps most recently an endurance athlete who has quietly become deeply immersed in the ultra running world, which I can't wait to talk about. Recently completing Cocodona 250 and shaving 10 hours. That's right, 10 hours off her previous finish. But today isn't about titles, it's about the person underneath them all. This is Randi Zuckerberg. Randi, thank you so much for being on the Grit Files.
Thank you. It's such a pleasure to be here with you, and thanks for the great intro.
I had to read it all because there's that many things. So we're going to unpack as many of those today as we can. But first, I want to get into, because I know you started talking all week about Cocodona 250. So we're giving you a little breather before getting into the big race. But I want to know a little bit about younger Randi, not the entrepreneur, the founder, not the public figure, but what did you care about deeply before anyone was watching you?
Yeah, oh my gosh, that's such a great question. And I think for me, first of all, actually, my background and my first love was the arts. Like I was a theater kid, and I actually think that theater teaches you a lot of valuable life lessons that I've used in other areas. Because I think like a lot of times kids don't really learn how to fail at a young age. But when you're in theater, like you are constantly auditioning for things and getting rejected. And so, like, I learned from a very young age how to handle rejection, how to fail and still believe in myself to like go for that next thing. And I think that served me really well in entrepreneurship, in running, in just like in my relationships and life. And so I actually think like that really set me up for success.
Gosh, absolutely. And I wish there was more opportunity to tell kids that now because there's a lot of beauty in failure. There's a lot of beauty in a DNF and getting
Yes.
teaches you so much about how to prep for the next effort, both in running and life. So I hadn't thought about that with the theater, but you're so right, is that how many times do you hear like, sorry, but you didn't get the part?
Yeah, like, sorry, you gave it your best, and your best isn't what we're looking for. And like, you still have to learn. You still have to be like, you know what? Well, like, I still think I'm the best, and I'm still going to show up at the next audition, and I'm still going to give it my all. And that's, I feel like, the kind of energy that you need to be excellent in anything.
I completely agree with that. And having gone back to that time, were there parts of you as a kid that made complete sense now looking back where you're like, oh, that's where it came from?
My my life, nothing that I'm doing right now was on any bingo card in life. I have to say, like, I was not a sporty kid. If you lined up 100 kids and you were like, which one of these is gonna do a 250-mile race one day? Like, I think zero people choose me. But I do think like I have always a little bit like had that dog in me. And like maybe I never applied it to sports, but I always applied it to like trying to be the best at whatever I was doing at the moment. And so I guess it's just, showing its head in a different way.
Well, and because you've been in it, that so much of a hard endurance effort like that really doesn't come down to physical ability. It comes down
Totally.
to everything up here. Like, what are you able to tell yourself in a moment of failure in order to get yourself through it? Because that's really what determines an athlete versus a non-athlete, And there are plenty of athletic looking people that show up to these races and they quit right away because their brain isn't in it.
Yeah. And I mean, even when you look at a race like Cocodona, where it's like almost half the people don't get to the finish line. And these are all people who are like incredibly fit. Like if you're on the start line of a 250-mile race, like you are capable of getting to the finish. But yeah, you're right. It's like that mental shift. Like that fascinates me, like why some people can like make it to the end and some people can't.
And it's truly crazy to me still, as many times as I've raced, going to the starting line, you always think that you know who's going to be really competitive, who's not. There, you cannot tell when you go to this
No.
who's going to show up and do what, because it could be a really great day for somebody, it could be a really terrible day for another person, and somebody could be so mentally fit and then somebody just be mentally checked
Yeah.
out.
Or someone could be great to mile 230 and then the wheels fall off the bus. Like it's not over till it's over. And I think like that's also a great lesson for life and business also because I work with a lot of startups and there are a lot of companies that they hit like funding issues or like tech changes and things like that and like they think it's over and then like something in the 11th hour they lock in an investor they figure out a problem solve to something like it's never over till it's over and I've just seen that play out so many times in business and life and now in these races.
Ultras mimic life, I'm telling you.
Yeah.
You've had success across technology, business, media, and the arts. Do you think you've spent your life becoming someone new or returning to someone you've always been?
Ooh, I love that question. I've been reflecting on that a lot. In fact, I had 103 hours to reflect on that last week. Um, as I've thought about my life, I tend to have go in and out of these periods where I get like laser focused on kind of mastery in one area. Like I just go super deep tunnel vision and like I I clamp down on my social circle, I like everything is about mastery and excellence in one thing. And then I'll drift back and I'll be in more of kind of an observer period where I'm like looking for my next thing to go deep in. And so I feel like when I evaluate the last 20 years of my life and my career, it really follows that same pattern. Like I went super deep on, being on the front lines of social media and Web 2.0. And then I took a back seat to be a mom and to kind of, and then like I went super deep on crypto and blockchain and kind of came out of that. And now really that's like ultra running. This is the first time that I feel like I've been consumed with mastery about more of like a hobby or a passion than something intellectual. But it's really cool. I love being in these kind of like focus periods. I feel very alive and like very immersed in what I'm doing.
And I mean, being in those long efforts does give you that ability to kind of really zoom in, and you're almost like a drone up above yourself in those moments. And you're like, wow,
Yes,
but
totally.
I want to change things. And you've got a long time to figure that out and a lot of time to have conversations with yourself around that. So,
Totally. Although it's funny because I have to say that I was actually not really looking for change in my life. Like I kind of stumbled on ultra running and in fact when I found myself like starting to kind of go down that like mastery lane, I almost fought it a little bit because I was like, no, I like where my life is right now. Like I have like a great community around me. I'm like super happy. Like, no, don't go down that path. But like the train already left the station and I was on the train. So, I'm on the journey and I'm excited to see where it goes.
Got bitten by the bug, and it doesn't end from here. There's always never doing this again. And almost every time it's less than 24 hours that I'm looking into the next race. Every
Yeah.
time I'm not doing it. This was so hard this time. I don't want to go through the training. And you always find a way back. So I feel like you're probably in that trap now. You've entered this.
100%. And I feel like the reason I know I'm in the trap is that I don't just think about racing and me as a runner. I spend time thinking about the entire ecosystem. So like I joined the board of directors of New York Road Runners. So I'm now on like the business side of the marathon. And I've done angel investments in at least three companies in the endurance sports space now, with like at the intersection of kind of tech and running. And so like that's how I really know that I've kind of gone deep down one of these mastery periods, is like it's not even just about me participating, it's about how I can be involved in the entire ecosystem and like play a bigger role than just like me as a participant. So it's really started to, I feel like my business life, my personal passions are all kind of converging around endurance sports right now.
I mean, I feel like the best time to get in it because, as you know, like there's running clubs on every corner now. This whole running boom, especially in the trail space now, too. Like, I feel like it was kind of a hidden gem for a while, and now trail's really blowing up.
Yep.
Collaborations between brands and the marketing behind the collaborations and just the messaging around all of the brands in and of themselves, before I would even venture to say maybe 10 years ago, people were showing up to trail and whatever they wanted to wear that day. Now it's a whole statement, whatever
Yep.
brand. So it's cool to be kind of front and center for the evolution of this thing. And that's exciting that you're a part of that.
Yeah, and it's interesting. So I'm actually I'm kind of coming into you now hot from Las Vegas, where I'm speaking at a business conference about AI. And actually one of the things that I discussed on stage in my keynote is that AI and kind of experiential events rise together. Like the more that we outsource our lives and our business and our decision making to screens and to AI, at the same time, the more that we crave these uniquely human experiences around whether that's suffering or coming together as a community or bonding over like music festivals and travel. It makes total sense to me that in this age of AI, that we're also seeing a boom in these kind of endurance events and getting out on the trails and like putting screens away altogether.
Definitely the suffering aspect, but I'll touch here in a little bit because I think people love to suffer together. It's a thing. It's a real thing. Getting
Total thing.
um, want to pivot a little bit into what I want to call is running as permission because this has been big for me. In coaching, one thing I hear over and over is that people are often searching for permission, permission to change, permission to evolve, permission to become someone different. And I realized at some point that running was that permission for me. It allowed parts of me to exist that I wasn't giving space for.
Yeah.
And so, did endurance running ever become that kind of permission for you?
100%. And in fact, I named her. I named my alter ego, who I've like, because so her name is Brandy. And I feel like in business, I grew up in a generation where like women had to be soft and sweet and smiling because like if you were aggressive, or assertive or acted the way a male acts as a leader, like that was viewed very negatively as a woman. And so I spent a lot of time like learning to be smaller in spaces where I was the only woman in the room and like learning to kind of quiet that like assertive voice inside of me. And I feel like when I started to run, I've named her Brandy. And Brandy is allowed to want to win. Like it's the first time in my life that like Brandy can just go like full send, and it's okay to be like assertive. It's okay to like be out for blood. It's okay to just like be the biggest version of herself that she can be. And I feel like as soon as I let her out, it was like decades of like caging her in my career that like just exploded out of me in running.
I I have experienced that exact feeling and I physically feel it when I'm out there. There's a shift and I love my identities that are outside of running. I'm a mom, I'm a partner, I am a daughter and a sister and all of those things I love, but when I get permission to go and run and just be me, I can feel a shift in my body when I'm out there. It's crazy.
I'm reminded it takes me, having this conversation takes me right back to like a specific moment in running. So, kind of at the start of my running journey, which was really only about 3 years ago, like as crazy as it sounds to say, I entered a half marathon in Central Park in New York City. And I guess it was a pretty toasty day. So I guess like a lot of the actual good runners didn't show up. They were not interested in running a half marathon in like 80 degrees. And so I broke the tape for the women. It was like my second or third half marathon ever. And I broke the tape. And like my time is arguably not that great a time, but like it was the best time that day. And I remember as I rounded the corner and I saw that I was going to be the one to break the tape, I had this thought that like it was the first thing in my entire life that was all mine. Like I sort of felt like anything else in my life could be qualified away. Like, oh, she was able to do that because she's Mark's sister, or she was able to do that because like she has these economic resources or this or that, or like almost everything that I've done, even things I'm proud of, can be qualified. But that breaking the tape was the first thing in my life that I felt like no one could qualify away from me. And like that was such a cool feeling.
I love that. And I feel the exact same way. It's the one thing where you put in all of this work and you were the one that crossed the finish line. No one else. No title matter, no family history matters. It's you. It's your thing. And it's such an amazing feeling. You can feel it in your bones. Um,
Totally.
what version of yourself is allowed to exist on trail that maybe doesn't always get room in the rest of your life?
Hmm. Okay, that's a really cool one. And I feel like people are often ask me like what music do I listen to or what do I do, and like I kind of don't. Like I kind of just let my mind go totally blank and like zen out and almost enter this like meditative state where like hours go by that I don't even realize like that time passed. Like the first day of Cocodona was I spent 10 hours on that climb. I would have sworn to you that it was like 40 minutes. Like the time just goes by. And I don't really have that stillness in my life. And it's kind of ironic that it takes forward motion of running to feel still. But I never allow myself just like that time to be in my own head and to just kind of like quiet out everything else and just be with myself. I think is it was scary at first, and now it's like one of my favorite things.
Peace. Just this, the ability to just not to really.
Yeah.
That was my next question is, what does running allow you to let go of?
Yeah. I mean, I feel like it's been so cathartic for me in so many ways too. Um, I carried in my last race, I had a photo on my phone screen of me at I think 22 years old. And that was like the only other time in my life that I was into running. I was kind of a little bit lost. I didn't really like know what I wanted to do with my life. I had just like had a really bad breakup and I signed up for the Chicago Marathon. I don't know why. I wasn't a runner, but like it just seemed like it was something that would give me purpose and forward momentum in my life. And so I signed up for it and I ran the Chicago Marathon and I crossed the finish line. I'm like, never again. Check, like done, bucket list done. Um, but I carried that photo of her because I think I've held on to a lot of like self-loathing about who I was when I was younger, and like a lot of like just I look back on that phase of my life and like I didn't really like who I was and I didn't like the choices I was making. And I think like the experience of Cocodona allowed me to let go of a lot of those negative feelings because I was like, you know what? Like that young woman, like she was just lost. And even though she was making some bad decisions, like she laid the groundwork for where you are today. Like it was her choices. And like even in her self-destruction, like she was still like thinking to sign up for the Chicago Marathon and like trying to make herself better. And so I feel like I was able to just like let go of a lot of that.
It almost allows for a reframe of, maybe those things weren't happening to you. Maybe they happened for you. This whole time,
Yes.
when you're in the thick of all of those things and the bad decisions and, in the thick of being a person that you're not sure about, it feels so much like things are happening to you and you're just angry. But when you get to a moment like that where you get to pull out and look at everything big picture, you're like, wow, all of this happened for me. It happened for a reason. And the exact moment that I'm standing in. And like, how great is that?
Yeah, like maybe what looked like failure or what looked like bad decisions at the time was like the resilience and the like the warrior spirit that I needed to call on now. And so yeah, it gave me permission to let go of some of my negative feelings about my younger self and like kind of learn to love her and thank her.
I feel like that's a pretty common theme for people that are out there running. And, they probably share a similar story to that. So that's awesome. Who do you get to be when you're 100 miles in and nobody cares about your titles? Let's not even call it 100 miles. Well, yeah, 100 miles would be midway for this one. Let's say 100 miles.
Yeah. Okay, so first of all, I cry a lot in races. That's something I've learned about myself. I am not a crier. Like I think I I I've gone through like multiple years at a time without crying. Like I'm not a very emotional person, but I am like a real crier in ultra marathons. And like that's the first thing that goes is like uh, so that's when you like know I'm in it is when the waterworks start coming. So I've kind of like learned that about myself and I feel like I'm unlocking this kind of like more like emotional version of myself.
Yeah, Brandy's there. She's a crier.
Yeah, Brandy has a lot of big feelings. Like she's like a warrior and she's out for blood, but she also just like has big feelings.
I love Brandy for that. Everyone does seem to have somewhat of a happening. That's what I've kind of started to call it that brought them into ultras. It's like a diagnosis, a transition, grief, burnout, curiosity, but there's always kind of something. If you talk to people out there at 3 a.m. in the middle of one of these hard efforts, everybody has a story of how they came in.
Yeah.
What was your happening? You said that it was kind of not a huge thing, but was there a happening that was kind of tugging all along?
Yeah, I think there are two things that I can point to. One is a conversation that I had with my mom when I was very young, and one is like a more recent happening. Um, I remember this was even a few years before the Chicago Marathon. I turned to my mom and I was like, "Hey mom, we should train for a marathon together." And she was like, I'm too old to run a marathon." She was like way younger than I am today when she said those words. And that really stuck with me for so much of my life because I was like, wow, like we are just so limited by these arbitrary things that society puts on us that says like we're too old or like we can't do this or we can't do that. And so like that really stuck in the back of my mind, I guess. Like I felt like I really wanted to prove that that wasn't true. But I think the bigger thing is when I turned 40, I um I just remember having this like terrible realization that if someone wrote the story of my life, I wouldn't be the main character in it. And that was really kind of horrifying and shocking because I was really proud of what I had accomplished in my career. I was a mom of three. Like, I think if I surveyed my life, it would seem successful, but I just couldn't shake the feeling that, like, for some reason, I was a supporting character in the story of my own life. And it felt awful. And I didn't even know how to change that or what that meant. And I think, going back to like that half marathon where I broke the tape, that was the first taste that I got of like, wait, I, in this moment, I'm the main character in my story. Like I'm reclaiming that back. And I think like running was really the first time that I experienced feeling like I was like recentering myself in my own story.
Oh, I love that. That gave me actual chills over here. That's a feeling, and I have felt that myself, where you're like, man, so much has happened, and you do the things that you're supposed to do, and you be the person that you're supposed to be, and then you get there, and you're like, I don't know, it doesn't feel the way that I expected it to feel. And then when you
Yeah.
know the story, it really is a different feeling. And I'm glad that running has been able to do that for you. So that is all. Want to talk about the magic of trail culture itself. David,
Yes.
and we're referring to David Callahan, CEO of Ultra Sign Up, a mutual connection to both Randy and I. But David brought up this really amazing concept that I actually had not heard of. Maybe you have, but it was brought about by the founder of Starbucks, and he calls it the third place. So
Ooh, okay.
is your house, your family. The second place is work. And the third place is where you go to escape them both. Not in a bad way, but it's kind of a place of connection that is different than what you have
Yes.
or in your workplace. And running feels like that for so many people. Would you call running your third place?
I would, but even more so than that, the precursor, I actually would call like this Orange Theory fitness gym near my house as a third place because that's actually how I rediscovered running in my life. After I had my third child, my daughter, I actually had pretty bad postpartum depression that I hadn't had with my sons. It was very surprising to me. And so I sought out therapy for it. My therapist was like, you need a hobby. I don't care what your hobby is, but like on your walk back home today, find a hobby. And I passed this Orange Theory gym that was like 2 blocks from my home. And I just like went in and joined and signed up for a membership. And at Orange Theory, it's a 1 hour workout where you spend half the time running on a treadmill and half the time lifting weights. And that was like it was so random. I don't know why I signed up that day, but it was the best thing that happened to me because I met like the most incredible group of women who I would say like are like my soul sisters, my best friends. And it brought running back into my life because I like slowly but surely like ran a mile and then I ran for 20 minutes and then I ran for 30 and then like I went out to the park to do a 10K. And like I don't and like so that room, that little studio has like become kind of like a sanctuary and it's I feel like it is responsible for where I am in my life now.
Not even, you get to a point where it's not even about the act of working out or about running. It's about, oh my gosh, I've formed this great group of friends that I get to go and grab a coffee with, or walk in the park with, or hop into a local 10K with, or maybe we do a book club together. It becomes kind of like your nucleus for everything.
Yes. It is. And it's like if I'm away on a business trip or if I come back from a race, like I can't wait to like go to Orange Theory and see everyone and like catch up with everyone. And it's sort of become almost like a symbol for showing up for ourselves and like a symbol of like, we matter enough to take an hour to show up for ourselves and to like prioritize ourselves amongst everything else that's going on. And yeah, it really has become like those women who I met are like my closest friends now. And that that act of signing up for that gym like changed my entire life that day.
Gosh. Um, I talked about this a little bit earlier, but I always love that you can run next to a Fortune 100 CEO or a local barista, and it really doesn't matter. You don't know the difference between the two
Yeah.
unless you were to ask. And in this world of running and Orange Theory and endurance, rarely does anyone ever lead with what they do for their profession. It's
Yeah.
always story or let's meet up for coffee or something like that. Everyone suffers together, though. That's what it comes down to. So, why does hard effort, do you feel, seem to level statuses?
Yeah. It's a great question. And I think, I thought about it a lot because I think that in so much of the rest of our lives, we can put up a facade and a wall. In business, you can kind of like show who you want to be, or if you meet people just for coffee or dinner or drinks, like you can like put on a face. When you are suffering in the trenches with people, like you cannot put on a face. You see people for who they are, like your soul is exposed raw. And I also think like when you go through that with someone else, you progress a friendship like in such a fast way. Like a friendship becomes so much more intimate because you've like shared something that no one else can will experience but you. And I even feel that way like with people, my friends who pace me in some of these races. I'm like, we are sharing an experience that is like just ours right now. And it is like so human and so raw. And I feel like, you can have I have friends that I've known for like 20 years that I don't feel as close with as people who I was like in the trenches with for one race.
So true. It is a completely different bond. And I think also it comes down to you literally survived because of those people. And the further
Yeah,
away from a trailhead, the more you depend on that person that's next to you. And
totally.
everything, especially a 250 miler, you hallucinate
Yeah,
issues, there's mind issues. They see you in every phase of that effort, and it's survival together. I want to talk a little bit about endurance as it pertains to business because you're
right.
all high performing executive. Um, and, I think ultras teach people a lot about leadership. So, what in your personal journey with ultras in particular has it taught you about showing up as a better leader?
Great question. And I've spent a lot of time thinking about this because even though I'm a new runner, I actually sort of feel like I've been training for ultras for decades because my experience at working at startups and being on the front lines of like brand new industries where I had to problem solve, I think in some ways is even better training for ultras than the running itself. Because when I'm out there and I face just crazy random situations and problems. Like I have the data points from my career that I have been thrown into the deep end of the pool before, and I've always figured a way out. Like I've always figured out how to swim. And ultra marathons to me are really almost like a series of problem solving more than they are a race. So that has been a really good parallel. And then I spend a lot of time investing and advising other entrepreneurs who are coming up and working on their startups. And I see a lot of similarities between a great entrepreneur and the kind of person who will dig deep enough to get to the finish line of a 250-mile race. It's like I want to be in business with the kind of person who's going to like finish what they start and is going to figure it out at all costs. And so I feel like I can recognize that spirit in an entrepreneur, just like I can like recognize it out on the course now. So it's I think there's so many parallels. And then you asked about leadership. I mean, I think just understanding that like these races are wide enough for a lot of versions of success and being able to find different definitions of like you might go into a race thinking like having one definition of success, but you might actually come out of a race having a very different outcome that is still successful. And I think that is like a real sign of leadership if you're able to roll with that.
And that definition changes throughout the day, throughout the hour during a race.
Totally.
You know as well as anyone else, your ability to be able to kind of pivot and be fluid to things is really what makes or breaks you because you can train perfectly, you can fuel perfectly, and think that you have the perfect plan, and without fail, something is going to blow.
Without fail, like in at Cocodona this year. So I have never in my life had a nosebleed, and I had an 8 hour long nosebleed at Cocodona. Like I spent an entire day with like tissues shoved up my nostrils and like my pacers like wiping blood off my face. And like I was like, well, I have planned for 100 different contingencies for this race, but that was like not a thing that ever crossed my mind as like a thing I'd have to deal with. And but like you figure it out if you're a resourceful, problem-solving person, just like in business, if something unexpected happens, like you figure it out.
Well, and you not only learn that lesson for yourself, but now it's in your toolkit to be able to share with others who happen to have a random nosebleed. You see hours, hours, 8 hours. So the next time that somebody running next to you in the middle of the night has this nosebleed, now
Yeah, I'll know exactly what to do.
be like, I've actually been in this exact same spot.
Yep, absolutely.
Um, what business lesson took years to learn professionally, but only one race to learn personally?
And oh wow, love that. I think I think what I've kind of realized is that like if you have that fight in you, you can learn any skill that's needed. I feel like a lot like society kind of tells you the opposite. It kind of like tells you that like the skills come first, and then it's like you should do what you're skilled in. But I think what running has taught me in races is that like actually if you have like the passion and the will, like you can literally learn any skill set. And I think Cocodona really showed me that because 3 years ago, I was not at all like an outdoorsy person. Like I was not the kind of person who you would put at the base of Mount Eldon alone and be like have the gear and the know-how and the confidence to like solo summit and descend a mountain. But what I did have is like I had that fight in me, you know, I had like that desire to get to the finish line. And so I learned the skills that one would need to be like a solo mountaineer, basically. Like I learned how to navigate, I learned my gear, I learned my pack, I learned like how to be self-sufficient out on a mountain. And like that really taught me that like where there's a will, humans are so resilient and can learn almost anything you need to know to be successful.
I see that all the time. And even back in talent acquisition days when people were asking for advice around how to get their dream job, I'm like, you need to start talking like you already have it. Like
Yes.
about what you've already done because you're trying to leave that thing. If you want to get into it, start talking like you're already doing it because your brain is going to believe exactly what you tell it on a regular basis. Whether you tell it can't, it's going to believe you. So start
Yeah.
want to do. And it's almost like manifestation in a crazy way.
Yeah, it's a great, I love that. And especially for women, I feel like women, we tend to wait until like we're perfect for something to put ourselves out there for it. Like we wait until we have all the skill sets and we feel like we're perfectly qualified and then we put ourselves out for something. But like what ultra running has taught me is that if you're smart and you have the will to figure it out, like you're already qualified enough.
Absolutely. It is so true. How has running changed the way that you make decisions?
Hmm. Gosh, well, I think one might argue that the kind of person that signs up for a 250-mile race doesn't make good decisions. So I'm not sure I'm like the kind of poster child for great decision making. But I think you know, it has I'm what I'm learning is I'm learning how to be a bit of like a smarter athlete in like recovery and downtime and like the lead up to a race, the lead out of a race. I think, you know, I used to be the kind of person that was just like full send all the time, foot always on the gas, like every day, whether it was in business or in life. And I'm learning how to like approach things with like on seasons and off seasons and rest, which is like a new thing for me. And I'm learning how all of these things are an important part of success.
I've had to learn that rest is work too. That's like a big one for me, where I interpreted rest as, oh my gosh, I'm not working right now. But rest is work. It's literally allowing your body to recover so that you can throw down that much harder in the next.
Totally. I know it's crazy. Like, so yeah, I took like a full week off after Cocodona where like I barely even got out of bed, let alone like even thought about exercise. And I think that might have been harder than like actually being in the race.
It's so true. Um, want to talk a little bit about motherhood. You're a mom. And something that I had heard in one of your other interviews was this idea of being well lopsided. And I heard it and I was like, that is genius. So you've said that you're well lopsided, meaning that you're fully committing to a few priorities rather than spreading effort evenly. And I love that because it's exhausting to find balance. And I feel like that's not totally a realistic expectation for people. So can you talk about what does well lopsided actually look like in practice?
Yeah. And so I feel like I really like strive now to live a life that's well lopsided rather than well balanced.
So love that concept when I saw it because I think especially as moms, we've gotten accustomed to this idea, and I think we do it to each other actually. We've gotten this idea that we have to be good at all of the things all the time, and that's the expectation. And I love that you kind of gave permission to the fact that no, actually, there's going to be moments where you're really in on this training block, and your life is going to look different. And then there's moments where you're in an off season, and it's going to look different, and that is totally fine. That's the beauty.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I feel like now my two sons, I have three kids. So my daughter's 6. It's a little early to know what she's going to be into, but I have two teenage boys, and now both of them are into running and endurance sports. And that's been so cool to see too, because I never sat them down and like had a heart to heart where I was like you should do hard things. There's beauty in it. Like having grit is good, but it's like kids just see more than you think they see. And like they see me pushing myself and trying to be the best that I can be. And I have seen them like then push themselves and hold themselves to a higher standard in life. And that is like super cool to see also.
Probably my favorite part of it is just what my daughter's interpretation. My daughter's a little bit older than your daughter. She's 8. And it has been really cool to see what lessons she takes away from it. Um, Even cooler than my own journey going through it. It really is.
Yeah, I mean, my 15-year-old was glued to the Cocodona coverage. He was like texting me the whole week, supportive messages. He like was on the phone with me one night when I was running alone. He's like, I'm gonna just do my homework, but I just want to be on the phone with you. And then like the final day that I was doing like the final Mount Eldon climb, he was like, okay, mom, like, what are you wearing? And I sent him a selfie and he's like, that's a perfect outfit to climb Mount Eldon, mom. Like, you look great. And it was so cool to see him so engaged. And he's like, all my friends are following you. And that really powered me through a lot of tough moments out on the course.
Sometimes just to see a familiar face, you're like, oh my God, the breath of
Yeah, totally.
forget about it. It's just, it's like jet fuel when you see them in the middle of a hard effort, knowing that they're
Absolutely.
flying to congratulate you. It's just different.
It is. It really just hits, like it really propels you through a lot.
Yeah. What do you hope that your kids learn from watching you do hard things as you reflect on that?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I hope that I have two boys and I hope that it changes their perspective of women. I hope that they grow up seeing women as like badass and warriors and like, leaders rather than, how my generation viewed women. I also hope that it maybe changes their view of like age and what you can accomplish with age because I'm in my mid 40s and I feel like I'm like the toughest, most badass version of myself that I've ever been at an age where like you're supposed to be getting weaker and smaller and like less. And so I really, I hope that me doing this challenges some of their norms and their views. And maybe they just grow up in a world where like they don't even question their view of women. Just like in their mind, like women are badass and that's like what it is.
Um, Yeah, I really do think that it's so cool to see a mom take on hard things. And part of me wants to go back to 22-year-old me and be like, if you would have just started this now, like how many mountains could you have moved? But there is something doubly special doing it when it's considered too late. You know, it
Yeah.
almost makes you be the
Yeah.
no, there is no such thing as a too late. There's no such thing as a not picking up a new skill, and I'm going to prove it.
Yeah. And I thought about this a lot because I definitely have moments that I'm like, why did I only just discover running like in my 40s? But then I think maybe I wouldn't have been ready for it earlier. Like I mean, I basically spent like a whole decade pregnant in my 30s. I was like super in my career. I was spending like 60 to 80 hours a week working in my 20s. Like I just wasn't ready for the lessons and like what running would bring into my life. And so even though I wish that I'd started earlier, I do think it came into my life at actually the perfect time when I was receptive to the change and the journey that it would take me on.
You absolutely have to be at a stage in your life where you're open to all of
Yeah.
the reflection, which is a big one, and definitely have been ready in my 20s to reflect on anything. Cocodona 250. We're gonna finally get to the race, folks.
Woo-hoo!
He's still on this high, I'm sure, of this amazing finish. So you just finished, for anyone who doesn't know, Cocodona 250 is literally a 250-mile race, and you took 10 hours off your previous time. What happened between version one and version two of Randy to do this?
Yeah, it's pretty wild to think because actually, my second cocodona started with like actually a terrible injury. I was out this whole fall. I tore my labrum in my hip and I was out from running for the entire fall. And I remember thinking, like, I just remember feeling devastated. I was like, I'll never get back to that cocodona start line. And I was even like, okay, well, like, am I done? Like, here I am in my mid 40s with this terrible injury. Like, will I actually like ever recover from this? Um, but I spent like 3 or 4 months swimming almost every day and strength training. Like, I actually feel like I worked harder, even though I wasn't running. And when I did get cleared to run again, um, I came within like 2 minutes of my marathon PR within like a few weeks of being back running. And that was kind of a light bulb moment because I was like, wait a minute, like maybe it's not just about the running, it's about like building a strong body and a strong mindset. And so I feel like I approached this training block entirely differently about just like how could I get my body and my mind as strong as possible. And I also think there's something about lining up a second time where, like, the first time I was like, can I do this? Like, 250 miles feels like stupid, and I don't even know if I can do it. But like, I walked into this one with the data point of having been a Cocodona 250 finisher. And so, like, my brain didn't waste time being like, can I do this? It just like immediately jumped to the point of like, how do I be better? And that it was cool like having both those experiences because year one I was like, okay, I'm a mom with something to prove. And this year I was like, I'm an athlete. Like I deserve to be on this start line and I'm gonna show that. And it was almost like having like two totally different experiences with the same race.
Um, and she didn't just finish this race 10 hours better, but landed in the top 25 women. So this was like a massive, massive effort here.
Thank
Um,
you.
moment during the race where you thought, this is why I do this.
Yeah, I there were so many moments like that. And, even just hearing from my son during the race was a huge why for me. Like hearing how psyched he was for me and like how invested he was in my success was to me like a huge moment. But I think the biggest, like there was like a moment, I got really emotional towards the end. So the final four-ish miles of the race that you like are kind of run through downtown Flagstaff to the finish line. There's a park that you run through, and there were all of these families out in the park with little girls. And as I would run by, they would literally be like, "Can my daughters high five you?" Because they just like, I want them to see what like a badass woman looks like. Like, they're like, "We are so proud to see a woman finishing this 250-mile race. Like, we just want our daughters to like touch you." And like, that like almost made me emotional because I was like, wow, like you never know what little girl sees something like that and like changes their entire view of what could be possible for them in their lives because you like ran by them and high-fived them at mile 249, you know? And that was, I think, like one of the most special moments of the whole race for me.
Changes the entire trajectory of their life, even to see like what's possible, because they don't even know it's possible until they see it firsthand and they're like, wow, I could be.
That's right. Yeah, you're like, that woman ran 250 miles. She's about to finish this race. Like, I could be that woman. And like, I didn't even know what an ultra marathon was until a few years ago, let alone see a woman at mile 250 running by and give me a high five. Like, so like super cool. That just like really stuck with me.
You talk about really honing into one thing and becoming, really well versed in that one thing. You really did that. You took this very small time frame and went from, I don't know, maybe I'll do an ultra to now it is like the big beast ultra.
Uh, I sort of feel like in life it's like go big or go home, like I was like, I don't want to just go to college. I want to go to Harvard, or like I don't want to just like act. I want to act on Broadway. Like I don't know. I've just always like like Rachel Entrekin says, like why not me? Why not like try for the very best of the best? Like why set your sights lower than the best?
Totally agree. And you have manifested it. All of those things have actually come to be, which is absolutely amazing and proof that if you want to do it, your body will find a way. It will happen.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I'm just like a regular mom of three who like was going to boutique fitness classes a few years ago. Like literally, if I can run Cocodona, anyone can.
So true. It really, racing isn't limited to a very specific person. It's literally open to everyone. And that's the beauty of this community is that anyone can do it. If you want to do it, standing here welcoming you with open arms and encouraging you if you want.
Yeah. And in fact, I think one thing that's so beautiful about Cocodona is that everyone comes out to cheer for the final finishers. And like they're in some ways like almost more celebrated than the winners. And I think that's such a beautiful part of the community. Like it recognizes like yeah, like we're doing it at different times, but like we're all equal. We're all out there on the same course. We're all like experiencing the same highs and lows. And like, that final finisher is just as amazing, if not more amazing, than someone who did it in half the time.
I always talk to my friends about that, where I'm like, well, who should we celebrate more? Because everyone loves watching an elite. That's so entertaining to watch the best of the best, and how can they do it better this year? But without fail, every time that golden hour comes up, it kills me because they all have a story. They all have a family that's chanting for them at like seconds sometimes to make it with cutoff. And I'm always like, they need a medal too, a different medal because they have been out there longer, days.
Yeah. And like, for me, like I was about 24 hours ahead of the cutoff. So like at any moment, I could rest at an aid station, right? And not be in danger of missing the cutoff. Like if I was tired, I could take an hour and rest. I could do this. But like when you are chasing the cutoff at the back of the pack, like you just go, 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 go. You don't get to rest. You don't have any luxury of choice out there. Like, and in some ways that it's like just 10 times more grueling than the elites that are like only out there for 2 days.
Oh, all the golden hour finishers, their poor feet. They've been on feet for so long. Thank
Yeah.
so it's so true. Um, Anybody who has ever run in one of these long efforts knows that it does come down to gear that you can depend on. It really.
Yes.
So what gear or brands have become non-negotiable for you during these long efforts that are like, I have to have this thing. I love this brand because they've shown up for me time and time. Do any
Yeah.
you?
I love it. Okay, yeah, I've pressure tested this like over the last few years. So I feel like everyone has like their own unique favorites. But so for me, first of all, I guess like apparel that's on my body is I like wearing like the t like tight compression shorts and pants, and Janji has been my brand of choice. So I feel like my trail uniform is like a long sleeve sun shirt, Janji, the half tights, and then like long compression socks is sort of like my trail uniform. And then I ran an all mount to coast shoes for Cocodona. I first tested the mount to coast trail shoe when I did an FKT in February. So I wore them for the whole FKT. Then I wore them for a 100K race, and then all of Cocodona, I kind of swapped between the trail shoe and like a hybrid road trail shoe that they have. And it's like, it, yeah, my feet like still felt happy at like mile 220, which is a great sign. Um, and then for vest, I actually tried a new vest from Ultraspire because I saw everyone at the like I went to a training camp for Cocodona and everyone had the Ultraspire pack, and I was like, all right, like there must be something going on if everyone has this pack, and I got it, and like that thing. I think you could survive for like a month in the wilderness with what you could fit in that pack. Like I've never had a pack that you could like fit that much and still had room to spare. So that I used that, which was awesome. And yeah, I'm trying to figure out. Oh, I had two watches on because last year it didn't upload to Strava. Like it makes me want to die to say that out loud. Like, can you imagine running 250 miles and it doesn't go to Strava? So this year I was like, I'm not falling for that twice. So I had one watch that was going the whole time. And then I had another one that I was like uploading segment by segment at each aid station because I was like, this is going to Strava, like whether I like it or not. And luckily, the big one did push through this time. So I was able to like go back and clear out the segments, but I was like, I am not like doing 250 miles and having it not count.
So rerun the whole thing because it does not count unless it ends up on Strava.
I know. I was like, I was having an existential crisis last year. I was like, did this run exist? Do I exist? I was like, did I actually die on Mount Eldon? And I'm like in an alternate reality now where I'm like a ghost. Like I actually didn't never cross the finish line. Like it sent that's not okay to run 250 miles and it like doesn't go on Strava.
Um, so do now we need to know. The people need to know. Are we Garmin or are we Koros?
I had one of each this time. So the Koros was the one that was like tracking the entire thing straight through, and then my Garmin was the one that I was doing segments on. So I'm kind of like a equal Koros Garmin girly.
Same. They're amazing. I can't say enough about those shoes. They are phenomenal shoes. Just a
They
phenomenal.
are phenomenal. And I actually got to test out the prototype in M1, their mountain shoe, which is like a super cushiony version of the trail shoe. And I actually ended up wearing it on the first day on the climb. And it was like incredible, like such a good shoe.
And just for anybody who isn't super well versed in the running world, I want to give credit where credit's due. You mentioned a term, FKT. Can we let everybody know what that means?
Yes, sorry, and sorry to like drop like terms and not explain them. So, um, there's so it stands for fastest known time, and it's not an organized race. So, what I love about these fastest known times is you basically you find a route. Maybe it's either a brand new route that you want to like cement, or it's a route that other people have already done and you want to beat their time on it. And it almost becomes very entrepreneurial because instead of entering a race where like everything is set up for you and you just show up and run, you are the race director, the logistics coordinator. Like you arrange everything when you're going for an FKT. So I set my sights on running the width of the Baja Peninsula of Mexico. It's 82 miles across from sea to sea. And you run from the Pacific Ocean to the Caribbean Sea. And in the middle, you summit this like giant mountain range. And then otherwise, it's like desert sand running to the sea. And that just seemed so exciting to me. But I mean, I had to plan all my logistics of like getting to the start and finish. I had to plan, I had a follow vehicle that was following me with like supplies and water. I even had to hire a donkey to be at the top of the mountain because that was the only way to refuel was like literally to send a donkey up the mountain. So I felt like I had to get like very entrepreneurial in like setting up my own route and my own support. But I did end up setting the fastest known time for male or female, which was super fun. And I felt like that was like it played to all my strengths of like logistics and entrepreneurship and athletic.
Can't do anything without doing it amazing.
Thank you.
One thing I love about ultras is, like I said, I feel like they mimic life in ways that I don't think people understand until they've actually lined up.
Yeah.
People talk about all the time about strategy and preparation. What's the plan? What's the next move? How do I optimize this? But ultras teach you that you can train perfectly, fuel perfectly, prepare for every possible scenario, and still have a race completely unfold in ways you never expected. Life does that too. I
Yep.
post, it may have even been yesterday or today, after Cocodona, where you talked about shaving the 10 hours off your previous race. And on paper, people would look at that and say, amazing, faster race, better result. But what stuck with me was that it changed the entire emotional texture of the experience. I loved that. Um, and it really sat with me what you talked about here. You said last time at 113 hours, you were surrounded by people constantly, shared suffering, conversations at 3 a.m., seeing headlights in the distance. This year, at 103 hours, you landed in this strange middle ground where you could go hours without seeing another human. You were, not fast enough for the elites, but you weren't quite slow enough for the bigger, larger pack. I find
Yeah.
myself a lot, and it is wild because you don't feel like you're racing. You're like, first of all, am I lost? Like, have I gone off path?
Yeah. It was
And you said that it made you think about life because so much of surviving hard things comes down to two things, like who you're surrounded by and the conversations that you have when nobody's around. So,
yeah.
what did that feel like in this huge middle ground that you've never felt before?
Yeah, it was wild because like last year, my time put me kind of like squarely in the middle pack of the race. And so I didn't even like think twice about it going into this year because last year, when I was alone at night, I was never alone. I always other runners around me. I always saw people. I made friends during the race that like I'm still in touch with a year later, like because we shared conversations and on the trails. And this year, I was just like so alone out there. Like, even from the beginning, from day one, I was just like super alone because, yeah, like you were saying, like I wasn't like the elite pack took off. I wasn't fast enough to be with them, but I was faster than the middle pack where I was last year. And so I basically spent 103 hours alone. And I would like forget that I was in a race. Like I would it almost felt like I was like just taking myself on like a regular long run or like a hike. And I would find myself saying things like, okay, so like when you get in the actual race, Randy, do like X, Y, and Z differently. And then I'd be like, no, no, wait, you're in the race. You're in it. You just don't see anyone else. It just doesn't like feel like it. But you're right. It made me realize just how much of life and performance is like feeding off the energy of other people around you. And it was a good skill to learn to like just rely on myself to get that energy that I would usually get from other people. But I did miss it. I did like it didn't really like feel like I was in a race, really.
Our spot to be. And in one sense, it allows you to do that deeper reflection and really kind of zone out and think about, gosh, how do I want to change my entire life? But then you also realize like how much of that suffering together really does fuel you to move into the next effort. Um,
Yeah.
I know, in life and business, we often focus on finding the right strategy. But how much of surviving difficult seasons is actually about surrounding yourself with the right people? Did you discover that out there? Like, wow, there's no people around me. And so much of this is actually about surrounding myself with the right people and the right energy.
Totally. And that's why I felt really lucky that I had such an incredible crew that I brought out. Like, if I was attempting Cocodona as an unsupported solo runner, like, I don't know that I would have made it to the finish line, like, spending that much time just totally isolated. But I ended up, like, basically, it almost felt like I was like going on a long run with my pacer with no one else around. And even the pacers that were with me were commenting on how weird it was to not see other runners. Because like last year, we were able to play these fun little games that was like, okay, we see like 15 people. Who can we pick off like this segment? Who can we like go hunting for? And this time was literally no one. Like we're just alone, like two buddies on a long run together. And even my pacers were like, this is weird. Like we're in like a weird place in the race where we're kind of just racing ourselves from last year and not anyone else. Um, but I was lucky to have such an incredible crew out there with me. I started with five friends who came out with me, and we actually picked up two more people out in Arizona who had like finished pacing other runners or like different things. And so I ended up with like a crew of seven, plus my husband who came out to be at the finish line. And so it was just really awesome to like share that experience with so many of my favorite people.
True. I've been on that side of the race too, and that can make or break a runner. Like some
Yeah.
spend hours from the last time they saw you, and just seeing your face and the energy that you have when they show up can be the thing that turns their race around. They could be have been in a really
Yeah.
dark, they get to that familiar face who knows them as well as they know themselves, and they're like, oh, thank God, it's changed the entire race for me.
Totally. And I also, so I almost had the identical crew this year that I had on year one, which is so cool that like everyone came back. Um, and the other thing that was cool about that was I actually got to see my crew up level themselves in confidence and like get locked in also. So like I showed up at this race as a new experience, like a more experienced athlete on the course, but my crew also showed up like more experienced and more confident in themselves on the course. And that really showed. And it showed in how they approach things and the strategy. They gave me a little more tougher love this year. Like last year, they were like, okay, like you can rest or you can do this. This year they were like, no, like you have 40 minutes and you're back out. Like you are out of here. We are shoving you back out onto the trail. And it was really cool to all level up together.
Looking at what other crews are doing to be more efficient, it's just really cool to be able to pick up on that too. It's like, oh, that's a great idea. We're going to do that next time. Oh, a vest
Yeah,
swap. Great idea.
exactly. Exactly. So yeah, there were so many just like little things that we did differently this year that it was cool to just be like, "Oh, look at us learning and growing."
And it is, it's a group growth that happens that you're just so proud of. It becomes about so much more than you and your effort. You're just so proud of your team too. Like when you cross, like, we did this. How amazing that we survived this together.
Yeah. And I think that's like also the beautiful thing about this sport that I wish more people knew is that, yes, like at the end of the day, it's my race. I went the distance. I'm the one who gets the credit and the time. But it truly feels like a team sport when you have a crew out there. And like even the days leading up to the race, it felt like a team in a locker room having a strategy talk. Like, and I kind of miss that as an adult. I miss that like locker room team talk. And like it really feels like it's both a solo and a team sport, which is extremely cool.
Yeah, I completely agree. That camaraderie, it's like unmatched. You really don't feel anything else like that. Is there a person, conversation, or moment from this race that unexpectedly stayed with you after?
Yes, I was reflecting on like a funny moment and I posted about it on Instagram and it went like a little viral almost. I didn't realize how much it would resonate with other people. So at mile, I think it was 170, which seems like that's like a crazy thing to even say out loud. Um, I was in a real low point because I was about to go through a third night by myself. Like that we somehow I timed like where I was in the race. I was hitting every night alone. And I was about to go through a third night completely solo, like through the woods. And so it was just really low. And my crew chief, Mary Claire, like comes up to me. She's like, all right, before I send you out, I need you to say one kind thing about yourself, like one compliment about yourself. And I literally couldn't think of a single nice thing to say about myself. So, like, the only thing I could think to say was, I have juice in my pockets. Like that was all I could think to say. And she's like, "No, that's a fact. That's like an observation. Like I put juice in your pockets and you saw me do that. That's not like a nice thing about yourself. That's a fact." And then finally she's like, "You know what? Screw it. I'll take it. Just go." And it's like it's funny and it's sad at the same time because like on one hand, it's like it's like a real reflection of like how low I was that that's like all I could think to say. But on the other hand, like it was kind of sad that like here I was at mile 170 of like one of the most epic things that I had done in my life, and I couldn't think of like a single kind thing to say about myself. But I felt very comforted by having sweet juice in my pockets, and that became my mantra for the rest of the race. The rest of the race, like anytime I needed to like pump myself up, I was like, I got juice in my pockets. So that just like became it.
It needs to be a need to have that's the crew shirt for next time we do this. I got juice in my pocket.
That's right. Like team pocket juice.
Even on being depleted. You were depleted of nutrition. You probably fuel. You probably weren't eating solid food. So
No.
good it is.
Yeah. So yeah, I was getting a lot of my nutrition from juice by the end. I was getting my calories and everything. So I guess like I was looking forward to like my juice in my pockets.
I stripped away the Tony Awards, business success, titles, social media, all of it. Who is, now I feel like I need to ask who is Brandy, but who is Randy with all of it stripped away? Or is it Brandy that it is?
Yeah, I think I'm learning how to have Randy and Brandy be the same person. I think for so much of my life, I had to like shelve Brandy away and be like, don't come out because you'll be seen as aggressive and overly assertive and intimidating as a woman. Um, and so I'm still learning how to like meet her where she is. She's been teaching me a lot of lessons, and I feel like I've been teaching her some lessons too. But, I think at the end of the day, like, I guess like I I really wish that I could go back to my younger self and have her see like how badass we'd turn out to be and just have her be like, fine, like maybe we're a little lost in our 20s and like a little down on ourselves, but at our core, we are the kind of person who finishes what they start. And we're the kind of person who like shows up for ourselves and writes our own playbook and figures it out. And I I think she'd be proud to see where we netted out.
So much main character energy now. And that was the concern. And you are showing up as the main character. And to be able to go back to 22-year-old Randy and be like, don't worry, you're gonna be the main character of this thing. It's huge.
Thank you. It's definitely been a journey and it's still a journey in progress, but I feel like I'm finally coming home to myself, and that's a really cool thing to experience.
Love that. That gave me chills. Is that feeling of coming home is once you know it, and a lot of people spend, I feel like, a lot of their lives knowing what they don't want, what home doesn't look like. But when you finally experience what it is, it's such an amazing feeling. And you just know, like, this is home. This is where I was always supposed to be.
Yeah.
Really different feeling. What are you still learning?
So much. Oh my gosh. I feel like I I just have these like funny moments all the time because I have glitter in my hair literally. Like I'm in like my mid 40s and I literally have like glitter in my hair. Like I feel like if you just met me, you would be like, this person is ridiculous. Like she has like glitter hair. She just ran 250 miles like for some like ungodly reason across the desert. Like I feel like you would think I'm like completely ridiculous and insane, but like I have never been more at peace with who I am. Like I've never been happier. And I think I'm just like learning that I've been spending so much of my life chasing the wrong things. Like I was chasing money and power and like I was chasing other people's approval. And I like now that I feel like I'm chasing the right things and I'm doing things for myself, like I've never felt richer and I've never felt happier. And I like maybe I needed to chase those other things in order to like experience what not chasing them feels like. But it's that has been like a huge learning for me recently.
If somebody right now is listening to this and they're that person that is maybe 22 version of you who is waiting for permission to be something different, do something different, change the entire trajectory of their life, what sort of advice would you have for that person and what sort of permission would you give them?
Yeah, in some ways, like I think you gotta be a little bit lost in the wilderness a little bit in order to like realize when you're found. And I actually think that the version of me that was hustling and grinding and chasing other people's approval, like I actually think she laid the foundation for where I am today because like without all of that, I wouldn't have the like freedom and the time and to like be dedicating myself to a passion. So I'm almost like grateful for that version of me that chased the wrong things and then like bought myself the freedom to be doing this now. So I think I would like mostly offer up forgiveness and I'd mostly just offer up like whatever phase of your life that you're in and whatever you're chasing right now, like trust that it's the right thing and it's getting you to where you need to be, even if like you feel a little bit lost and floundering out there at the current moment.
Feel like just almost as if you're being lost in a race. There's something that you learn from getting lost in a race or DNFing in a race. That some of the biggest lessons actually come from taking a wrong turn, and life is not just
Totally. And you're like, okay, that other version of you that you're trying to get to, like she's waiting for you at the finish line, but like it might not be this finish line. Like it might be one in the future and but like she's waiting for you and you'll find her.
Throughout this conversation, we've talked a lot about endurance and becoming. Ultras have this funny way of introducing us to versions of ourselves we didn't know existed. So, in closing, who is Randy becoming right now?
I think in many ways I'm still figuring that out, but I think the version of myself I'm becoming is one who realizes that actually the only person that needs to believe in you is you. And when I signed up for Cocodona, when I've signed up for a lot of these things, like I think at first, um, I don't know if it's that the people in my life didn't believe in me, but I think they were like a little worried or a little bit like, why is she doing this or what's going on? And I just very quickly realized that like they didn't have to believe in me because I believed in me. And that was like the only thing that mattered to getting to that finish line. And I think that's kind of been like the most powerful lesson I've been learning, and the most powerful thing that I've been becoming is like, I think when you believe in yourself, you become very dangerous and like very powerful in your life. Um, and it's been, I feel like I walk into rooms differently, having like been a two-time Cocodona finisher and believing in myself that way, and then proving myself right. Like I walk through the world differently. I'm in rooms differently, and it's like it's very powerful to just have that belief in yourself.
Yeah, there's something so magical about just knowing that you will figure it out. Like you have a way of moving through life that you're going to get it done. And the second you believe it, it will be so.
Yes, absolutely. And like it's so powerful what belief in yourself does. Like you can truly do superhuman, impossible things if like you just believe that you will. And I think I spent a lot of my life like waiting for other people to believe in me or start seeking that from other people. Um, and I realized that like actually it's so powerful when it comes from you.
Yeah. And I think it's such an important message, especially for youth now that have grown up in a world where validation is kind of the thing that lets them know whether or not they're doing the right thing, making the right decisions, showing up and looking the right way. And I think it's so important for them to understand that sometimes doing the thing closest to you is going to have no likes, no validation.
Yeah,
Someone's going to tap you and say, I think you should do this amazing thing. It's going to be you. And I think it's so important. And I love that you highlighted that is that, it was when you decided that the other people, not that they didn't matter because it's people that you care about, but that you were the one that needed to believe the most. You couldn't wait for anybody else. I think it's
that's right. Because no one, like the other people in my life were never gonna like believe that I was gonna go run 250 miles, and nor could they. They can't be the ones that get me to that finish line. Like it has to come from within. So that taught me some really powerful lessons about what we can achieve when we stop relying on other people to give us that permission.
not running the 250 miles either. So of course they have all the things to say, but if they're not running, what does it really matter?
Exactly. If they're not running, their opinions don't matter.
And you here, all right? Until you run through the desert for 3 days by yourself.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Randy, I have really thoroughly enjoyed this conversation. I appreciate you taking time to talk with us and for letting go of your dinner for the last hour.
No, it was such a pleasure. You're an incredible host, and I really love like how deep we got because I think, you know, life's too short to just have small talk. Like get right to the meat of it.
I'm sure, it sounds like we have a lot of similarities in the way that we kind of grew up wanting to please other people and be the right things for the right people. And when I came up with the idea of the grit files, I did it because I felt like it's what I needed in those moments of, transition and moments of not knowing what to do. I was so longing for the stories of grit, the stories of hard and like when people decided to do something that no one expected or they did the thing that felt most like them but nobody approved of it. I wanted those stories because I needed to hear them. um,
Yeah.
so I really aim to show our audience the stories that aren't the pretty real that everybody sees. These are the stories of grit. These are the stories of, hey, everything in my body was telling me that it was time to pull the plug. And this is the conversation that I told myself or had with myself in order to keep going. So I really appreciate you sharing some of that internal dialogue so that somebody who feels like they're pleasing somebody else or they feel like they're stuck has a little bit more hope.
Yeah, it turns out all you need is some juice in your pockets.
Some glitter in your hair.
Yeah, glitter in your hair, juice in your pockets, and just belief in yourself.
Randy, you have been a fabulous guest. I hope that we chat again in the future. But until then, with purpose and grit, I'm your host, Laura Reynolds. And good luck on whatever next huge effort you decide to take on, because we know it won't be long.
Thank you.